Welcome to Motor Mouth, brought to you by the Boyertown Museum of Historic Vehicles. I'm Kendra.
I'm Dan.
And we are here in the gorgeous 1938 Reading Diner, which, as was pointed out to us, does look kind of sparse this evening as we film. That's because this weekend we will be having Diner Day on April 7th.
Yeah.
So we make as much room as possible back there because we're going to have lots of pies stacked up and ready to hand out, well, for a quarter.
Right.
It's pretty steep. So that's Saturday, April 7th, 10 a.m. to 1 p.m. We'd love to see you here. It's a great day. It's lots of fun. We enjoy it. And for April, that's really our biggest thing for a while. But in May, we will be having a reunion here of former Boyertown Auto Body Works employees. That's May 19th. So you watching at home, if you or maybe someone you know, a relative, a friend used to work here at the Body Works, please contact us and let us know. We'd love for that person to receive an invite. We're looking forward to it. We have a lot of interest. The company really only went out of business 1990. That's really not that long ago. So there's still a lot of people around that remember and that worked here, and we're looking forward to it. Again, that's May 19th, but please contact us so we can send you, a card, a reminder about the event. So that'll be an interesting day too. Lots of good stories.
Yep.
So let's see. What have you got for us here this evening? Because I see a cool ad sitting here.
Yeah, a cool ad.
I know, I like ads. I like when you bring.
Okay. That's actually half of this ad, which is even cooler. Okay. Anyway, what I'm going to talk about, I'm going to start off with a guy named Albert Spalding, better known as A.G. Spalding. He's known a lot in the sporting goods thing. In fact, I was at Walmart yesterday, saw Spalding basketballs there, and there's Spalding everything else as far as sporting goods. But I'm going to talk about him a little bit, and yes, this is tied in with automotive and motor types things, okay?
We can tie anything.
We
to
can,
automotive.
well, yeah, okay. Okay, anyway, Spalding. The company of Spalding Sporting Goods was founded in 1876, so it goes back a ways. He was a all-star, not better than an all-star. He was like a really, really good ball player back then, okay? And he created this company to sell goods and such. But also what he did, he standardized things. In 1877, he created the world's first baseball glove, period. So before that, they weren't using any. So they were using bare hands prior to that. And they called it a sissy glove, but it was okay to wear because Spalding had a great reputation in baseball. He wrote baseball guides also, for like instructional guides. He kept records and everything. He ended up manager of a team. I believe he was maybe a commissioner also. There was a baseball bat also. His company came out with the first bat that got the barrel was thicker than the handle. So that was that. But 1900, I skipped several years here, but 1900, their baseball bats were the most being sold, and they were selling over 1 million a year, which is phenomenal back then. Okay, anyway, we're going to flip back here to the 1800s again, into the 1890s. He was buying up rival sporting good companies. In 1893, they purchased a company called the Lamb Knitting Machine Company. Lamb as in a baby sheep.
Okay.
Okay. Out of Massachusetts, and renamed it Lamb Manufacturing Company. He used this purchase to consolidate some of the stuff he had. He had factories all over the place. He had a skate factory in Newark. He had gymnasium product factory in Philadelphia. So he consolidated all this back up into Massachusetts, and it was Chicopee, which I think is where Duryea kind of hung out too. Okay.
Yes, I believe so.
There you go. All right. that wasn't the car relation thing
Oh.
I was talking about,
We,
though.
we can do better than that.
Yeah. Okay. Lamb Company primarily manufactured the knitting machines, as I already mentioned, rifles, and egg beaters. I was thinking, okay, yeah, whatever, you know, and it was kind of strange combination there. Anyway, in 1890, Lamb was contracted to produce a bicycle called the Credenda bicycle wheel for Spalding. And you'll see in the first advertisement, there's one that costs $85 if you wanted one of these. That advertisement's from 1896. What you can't see on the bottom part of that advertisement, you're only seeing the top part, they also sold boats. So Spalding was making boats. So anyway, the Credenda bicycle was made by Lamb, and also there was a Spalding bicycle there. There was also somewhere in there, soon after that, I believe it was 1900. I'm kind of looking through my dates here. Actually, 1899. This Lamb Manufacturing Company was going to build a Lamb car for Spalding to sell. You know, it's the big thing. Everybody's selling cars here. And it didn't work out. They said there was 2 prototypes made, and they're not even sure if they were made. And they were going to make actual cars. They weren't sure if they were going to call it Lamb or Spalding or whatever. But anyway, it's just a little footnote in the history. After 1900, Spalding actually was selling cars through their stores, and I guess through their catalog. What cars, what brand they were, I don't know. So I'm sorry, I didn't do my research on that.
Man.
But it's interesting, you know, this little Lamb car. Okay, sorry. Anyway, this Lamb company building a car for Spalding, and you know, it's just another way. You know, this whole automotive industry was still experimenting with different things. And right before we went on air, we were being another guy here, we're discussing some of the innovations that were made back then, and you know, they were trying all sorts of things. So that's the Lamb / Spalding story. A little side note, and you'll see this in the next picture, is a Spalding military bicycle. And they made bicycles for the military. They had certain things where you could have a gun on them and a bedroll and stuff. And they had a company, oh boy, okay, U.S. Army's 25th Infantry Bicycle Corps. And they could ride their bikes, you know, wherever. I guess it was easier back then to ride in certain areas. And they were, it was pretty interesting. You have to read about that on the internet. It kind of gets away from our topic a little bit, but it's a very interesting sidelight. Okay, that's one thing. I got another thing here too. Is that okay?
A sporting thing?
Another sporting thing. Okay. This involves Goodyear rubber. Everybody heard Goodyear tire? Okay. And 1898, Goodyear rubber was founded in Akron, Ohio. We'll hop up a few years, about 1917, 1916, demand for rubber tires was increased, especially with World War I. And one of the things they needed in all these tires, beside rubber, was cotton. And it was used to reinforce the rubber tires. Sometimes you see a real old tire from that, where the rubber's gone, and it just looks like it's a lot of cloth in it, okay? So they needed cotton to reinforce the rubber tires. They had a problem with World War I because there's a cotton shortage, and also cotton sources from foreign countries were diseased, or there was an actual war going on in the country. Now, where they were finding them was actually in Egypt. There's a certain type of cotton, which is called long staple cotton, which I'm not sure what that means, but they found it in Egypt and coastal islands along Georgia in this country. Well, Goodyear needed more land. They found out that in the Salt River Valley in Arizona, the climate was very similar. And so they bought up a bunch of land. So 1917, Goodyear bought a bunch of land. I mean, tens of thousands of acres there. They went to the farmers. They said, hey, you know, we're going to be raising cottons here. The farmers weren't interested. Goodyear brought in their own laborers, developed irrigation, so on and so forth. Now, one of the products from the cotton, you're going to look at an advertisement or part of an advertisement, and it's just the top of a Goodyear advertisement, and it says the paramount virtue, and that's a cotton cord tire. Okay, it's just something to look at instead of looking at me. Okay, okay. So in 1917, they bought all this tire or all this land and started raising cotton. There was one portion of that, it was 16,000 acres, and they originally called it Goodyear Farms. And then there was a little village that started. They called it Egypt after the Egyptian-style cotton, and that was a little community. In 1946, they changed the name of the town to Goodyear. Now, here's the baseball connection here. Okay.
All right.
And I was thinking, this is like 2 weeks ago. I'm driving home from work one day, and I'm thinking, you know, I need a baseball topic, baseball/cars. Well, it just happens to be that the Cincinnati Reds and Cleveland Indians, for their winter league, their Grapefruit League spring training is in Goodyear, Arizona, and they play in Goodyear Park. How's that for a connection? But it gets interestinger, okay? And I had something sitting off to the side. I got all these little notes and things like, oh, this is a future TV show. And this came in handy, and I'm going to read this. And this came out of a magazine called The Motor Truck from July 1920, okay? Found it on Google, okay? And it says, the Southwest Cotton Company, a subsidiary of the Goodyear Tire and Rubber Company, has just purchased the town of Marinette, Arizona, and 7,800 acres of adjoining land for cotton growing, increasing its holdings for the raising of long staple cotton for automobile tire fabric to 36,000 acres. More than 20,000 acres have been leased. Of the 56,000 acres controlled, about 30,000 are under cultivation. Another Goodyear subsidiary has gone into the Imperial Valley of California and arranged to take a large portion of the cotton yield in the fertile region. So Goodyear, they would just go buy all this land and say,
whole town.
Let's go, yeah. Jeez. Then I went on Wikipedia. Some people say, you can't believe this, you can, you know, but anyway, we're going to believe it this time. And I typed in Marinette, Arizona. Okay. And this is kind of interesting. Marinette was a ghost town in Maricopa County, Arizona, located just northwest of Peoria, Arizona, along the Atchison, Topeka, and Santa Fe Railway. The site was promoted in the early 20th century for production of citrus fruits, apricots, olives, and other crops. The town was purchased by the Southwest Cotton Company, Goodyear subsidiary, in 1920. At some point in the mid-20th century, it was abandoned.
Oh.
Okay. The place where Marinette once was later became the site of Del Webb's corporation, Sun City, Arizona. So the big retirement thing, that's where it was. Yeah. Now, another connection here. Who is Del Webb? Do you know Del Webb?
Who is Del Webb?
Do you know who Del Webb is? No, nobody knows who Del Webb is.
We're going to find out.
Former owner of the New York Yankees. So there we go. From 1945 to 1964. Signed Roger Maris. So anyway, so you're going to see some more advertising going on here. So that's kind of connected, you know, kind of interesting how Goodyear bought all this land. And if you look at a map of the Phoenix area, and you can see where Goodyear is just a suburb now. I just mentioned Peoria. Peoria, there's a stadium there too. The Padres and Mariners play there, okay, in Peoria. Also next to Sun City is a town of Surprise. That's another ballparks in there. But they're all suburbs of Phoenix, and back then it was just, you know, wide open farmland, but that's 100 years ago too. So, So cotton isn't really used in tires anymore. So it is for, it said for, as a processing aid somehow, and I think it's just some material. I don't know how they do that. So it's pretty much eliminated. Goodyear today employs 69,000 workers, has 50 facilities in 22 countries. So that's pretty much it. You have a question?
Well, maybe I'm wrong, and maybe as soon as the camera stops rolling, maybe someone here will tell me that I'm wrong. I thought, isn't long, stable Egyptian cotton like luxurious stuff? I think it's funny that we're using it in tires.
I see a nodding from one of our live studio audience persons.
See, it seems like an odd thing to be putting in your tires. Yeah. This is funny to me.
Well, I don't know. Maybe it's, they don't look at it.
I wonder why it's.
It's probably stronger and everything.
Probably.
So.
Interesting.
All right.
I like it.
So that's it.
And the Credenda bicycle, that does not roll off your tongue, I don't think.
Oh, one last thing. Do we got time? Oh, we got time. Okay. I have a thing here. This goes back to Spalding, and it's a page out of, I guess, one of their booklets, and it says, which catalogs shall we send you? And they have all different kinds. There's catalog spring and summer sports, one for a Spalding bicycle, one for bicycle sundries, one for boats.
Sundries, yeah.
Hunting equipment, gymnasium apparatus, and pneumatic boats. Ever hear of a pneumatic boat?
A pneumatic boat.
What do you think a pneumatic boat is?
Like an air-filled
raft. Yes.
Yeah.
And that's what I thought, air-filled raft. And so I went on, and basically what it is like this inner tube type thing. So if you're fishing, you can go out and everything. Yeah. And,
like an emergency.
Well, not an emergency, but it's for the hunter, duck blind type thing and that kind of stuff. So there it is. A.G. Spalding and Brothers.
Interesting.
Mm-hmm. Okay, now I'm done.
Okay. All right, well, in that case, we will move out of the diner here temporarily, and we'll go take a look at our guest car for this evening. So we'll meet you out at the gas station. Okay, well, we have moved out here to the gas station, and I am here with Fred Heiler and his 1965 Porsche. And we're also here with our friend Sam Fiorani. You might recognize him. He's been on the show before. And we thank Sam for helping us get Fred and his Porsche here. So I guess to start out, Fred, how long have you had this car?
I've had this car about 15 years. I bought it from a good friend of mine in North Carolina, and my son and I made several trips down there to get it in running condition and then drove it back to this area from the Charlotte, North Carolina area.
So how much of it, it wasn't running, I guess, so how much work did you have to do? I mean, major stuff?
It had sat for 4 years, so we had to drain the fuel, rebuild the carburetors, unstick the brakes, put a battery in it, obviously, pump up the tires, and it went 700 miles, no problem.
Yeah, okay. So what made you, I mean, are you a Porsche fanatic or fan? I should say, not a fanatic.
Well, I guess you could say I grew up as part of the Volkswagen generation.
Right.
So I always aspired to have the sort of hot rod Volkswagen, the original Porsche 356. And couldn't afford it until I was an adult.
Right.
But I'd always wanted the last year this car was made because it was the only year that had disc brakes, much, much better brakes. The 911 Porsche, which is still being made, succeeded the 356. They were on the showroom floor together in 1965, side by side.
So you wanted a Porsche ever since you were a teenager, probably
Sure.
ever since you got the driver's
All my
license.
adult life, yeah.
Yeah, yeah. And it's, you get to a certain point where you are now, it's like, okay, now you can afford the cool car you couldn't afford way back then.
Well, I couldn't afford one in really good running order.
Okay.
This one it needed an engine. It needed a lot of mechanical work. I was interested in buying one that had a solid body, and then I rebuilt the engine and the transmission.
So how does this compare to the 911?
The six-cylinder engine of the 911 makes it a completely different vehicle, in my view anyway. Much smoother, much faster. But this has its own character. It's powered by a four-cylinder engine that's really much like the Volkswagen Beetle, but faster, stronger.
It sounds great when you had it running earlier. It's got a nice throaty sound to it.
I've driven a lot of both types of vehicles. I couldn't pick one over the other.
But because they're rear-engined, they've always been notorious for their handling. Do they have the same characteristics in the tail-happy characteristics?
They can if you if you're not careful when you drive them, but for generations people have driven VW Beetles, no problem.
But a VW Beetle didn't have this kind of power.
No, it didn't. I would say this is a little better balanced vehicle than the VW Beetle because it's more powerful.
Okay.
And they probably designed it from the start to be better balanced also.
Yes, it was always Porsche's feeling that if you increase the power, you change the suspension,
Right,
and you
right.
increase the braking so that it was truly balanced in all three ways.
So is this just street driven? Do you ever have a chance to go a little quicker than street driving off the street?
I've never competed wheel to wheel with it, only in my imagination.
Okay. Well, you'd win too. You'd win every time. So, no. Well, I'm thinking, don't some tracks have like days where you can get your street car out on it? And
Yes, they do.
Have you ever done?
Never done that.
Okay, that's your next dream.
Right.
Okay.
But I know you've driven this from, you say, North Carolina to New York, at least. It's had some miles on it. It seems like a decent driver on the road.
Oh, it's fun on a long trip. And what I love about these cars is that once you get them sorted out, you have an engine and a transmission and suspension that's in, good condition. It's an utterly, totally reliable car for a long trip.
You wouldn't expect that from a 50-year-old car.
Well, the individual parts of it have been, restored, so it's like a much younger car.
Yeah, I was going to ask about that. Have you done anything besides, refurbishing things to get it up here up north?
The engine, the transmission,
Okay.
front and rear suspension, steering. So all of
Pretty
the
much
important
everything,
sort
yeah.
of under the skin systems have been.
Interiors original?
Yes, the foam
Okay.
rubber has been replaced
Okay.
because after 50 years it
Yeah.
turns to powder.
Oh, yeah.
But actually the seat covers I've reused. They may not be the ones that came from the factory, but I just replaced the foam underneath them.
And I ask people quite often when they have a car on the show here about replacement parts. Now I know there's a huge interest and a huge following in these vintage Porsches. Is there, how hard is it to get parts for it? You said like rebuilt suspension, like suspension pieces.
I would say there's a half a dozen websites, mail order houses that stock most parts for these cars.
Okay.
There's a few things that would be difficult to get. mostly cosmetic. Maybe this, the handle on the hood, for example, but everything else is readily available.
Okay. Does Porsche's, does the company itself have vintage pieces that you can get?
Some,
Some.
not everything.
Because I think Mercedes is doing that. I think you can get stuff through Mercedes.
They actually have a classic center
Yes.
where they stock parts for 50, 60-year-old cars.
Okay.
Porsche does something similar to that, not as well developed as
Okay.
Mercedes.
Yeah. They're pointing that way, so.
So what trim level is this one? I know that they had different series of 356.
This would be the last iteration. There were originally, there was A, B, and C, and pre-A's. This would be a C body and SC trim. In other words, the higher horsepower engine, taller gearing, but surprisingly similar to each other over the years.
Yeah, it's a beautiful car, and I've driven behind you a few times, and it just to see it move down the road, it's such a lovely car to see on the road.
I always liked the style of these Porsche. You know, it's, I guess it's almost a vintage, you know, it's 1965, but the basic style goes back, I don't know, early 50s maybe?
They started selling them in 1948.
Okay.
And the original design started in the 30s. They were making prototypes, 1946, 47.
Yeah, so, yeah, it shows just a well-liked design, and it just kept going and going and going.
And you can see the lineage into the 911. You can see how the fenders and the basic roof line evolved into the 911. So
The profile or the silhouette is very similar.
right, it's amazing how well that basic design has lasted 70 years.
Sure.
That's amazing.
Now, this car, you're driving it, and I'm sure it does not ride like a modern car as far as comfort and such. Am I correct in saying that? Is this a little harsher of a ride, a little rougher maybe?
You know, it rides about like a Volkswagen Beetle.
Okay, okay.
I say that because probably most of your viewers, everyone here has driven in an old Beetle before. It feels very similar.
Yeah. I mean, when you were turning this thing around a little bit ago, I'm thinking, you know, it sounds very similar to a Volkswagen. Similar, but not exactly. I have to watch my words there. So.
Does it ride on a longer wheelbase or a shorter wheelbase than the Beetle?
It's about the same,
About the same?
About the same, wow.
within an inch.
Wow. Wow.
Yep.
So they really didn't go far from the basic
As a
concept.
matter of fact, it's a little bit shorter wheelbase than the Beetle.
So it helps for cutting back roads. And
Yeah, sure.
Yeah.
Okay, now there was something that Kendra noticed right before we started filming here, and there's a little badge on the side.
Yeah.
It says Carmen, and you know there's the Carmen Ghia. Everybody knows the Volkswagen Carmen Ghia. Now, how does this Carmen fit? That's the coach builder, am I right?
Carmen was a body works. They made some of the bodies for the Porsche assembly plant. There were several other body companies. For a time, Carmen just made the convertibles.
Okay.
Obviously, this is a hardtop. They made a few hardtop bodies as well. There was another body maker, Reuter, who
Okay,
made
yep, I've heard of
quite a few bodies for Porsche.
They also made the convertible bodies for the Beetle,
Yes.
Yep,
and
yep.
then the Carmen Ghia.
A kind of busy little company there, except they probably weren't a little company.
They've been around. Well, I think the company itself has ceased to be, but it dated back to the turn of the last century.
Okay. So, servicing, you have no problem. There's Porsche dealers you can take it to, or do you have a specialized Porsche garage that you're going to take it to?
I do the maintenance on this car
You
myself.
do the maintenance,
Yes.
okay, okay,
Yes.
Great.
okay.
Oh, I fixed it up and drove it from North Carolina. I think you
Well, I'm just, okay, well,
And I think, you know, with all due respect to Porsche,
yeah,
anybody who's ever done a tune-up on a VW Beetle
Mm-hmm.
could do their own maintenance on a car like this.
so,
You said you went down to North Carolina with your
With my son.
son, right? Does he?
Yes, he does,
Yeah.
as a matter of fact.
Good. Keep it in the family.
Yes.
is he an enthusiast too?
Yes,
He
he
has-
works as an engineer. He could probably do as much as I could or
Okay,
more on this
okay.
vehicle.
Yeah,
Yeah, they had a project car together.
okay.
Yes, they built a nice kit car, and they did a wonderful job on it. Even though you haven't painted it yet, it's a great car. It's a
That's the one you told me
yes,
about.
yes. It's they have a Cobra kit car that they put
Okay.
together. You wrote about it for New York Times, didn't you?
Yes. Yeah.
And
Oh, wow.
it's just a fantastic job on the car. It's got some nice little novelty things on it that I.
When my son was in middle school, there were a lot of distractions. Video games, girls, you name it. And, you know, he was a very smart boy, but didn't do well in school. And it was very frustrating for his mother and me. But at the same time, he would talk about cars, and in particular, Cobras. And one night I said to him, if you'll get on the dean's list or the honor roll and stay there, he was in 7th or 8th grade, I'll buy you one of these kits and we'll put it together. Never thinking that he would that he would do this. He got his act together. He was on the honor roll all through high school. And of course I had to make good.
Yeah.
And we had a tremendous time building that car, and it turned out to be quite a good vehicle.
Yeah.
That sounds like something, not only did it straighten your son out as far as the seriousness of school, and you know, he ended up with a cool car, but I'm sure you and him really bonded together.
Oh, it was
building
definitely a father-son
Yes,
bonding
yes, I
experience for sure.
heard that.
I don't know who had more fun, him or me.
Yeah. So,
I think you do, because I see you driving it more than him. So.
okay,
I have the garage.
got it, got it.
So yeah, are you going to be bringing this to the Boy Scout Car Show?
It's up to you.
I'd love for you to bring that to. We're having a Boy Scout Car Show in
Yes.
Douglasville in April 28th, and it's troop597.org to look it up. And if you have a car to bring, call and register, or email your registration in for the show. It's a great show. We get 100 to 120 cars every year, and last year we started having an actual judging team. So it's a real car show. So come and bring your car in. Come and walk around the show.
It was, last year was almost like Hershey, because it rained.
It did rain.
It's not gonna rain on your car, so you gotta bring it. Okay,
It's not going to rain this year. But we do have a nice team of judges and a great show of cars. So bring your car up and come and hang out for the day. It's April 28th
Where is it?
in Douglasville at the middle school, the Daniel Boone Middle School.
Okay. So you might go and you might see this car
Yes.
and about 100 or so
And about
others.
100 to 120 other cars, yeah.
Sounds good.
It's a great show.
Now with this, I know you talked about the mechanical and the interior, so like the paint and stuff, that's all you kind of left it as
It had
you
been
got?
repainted once. If you look carefully, you can tell. But I haven't done anything with the paint since I've owned it.
I mean, it looks good.
Don't look too closely.
He'll be moving too fast. So I can see. Yeah, I mean, but right now your plans are, the work you're going to do it is going to stay like, keep it running.
Yes,
Yeah.
yes.
Okay.
And just tend to little things.
Yeah.
One year I noticed that the sun visors were limp. They're you know, so I took a razor blade and cut the seam. It's all molded plastic. One seam that you can't see very easily, and poured this powder out of it. It used to be foam rubber.
Oh my gosh.
So we found new foam, put it in there, crazy glued the seam back, and the sun visors are not bad.
They work.
Like the seats, they deteriorate after
Right, sure.
a few decades.
What did we forget to ask?
I ask everything.
Well, we'll have to, we'll look for you zipping down the road in this. And we appreciate you bringing it out. This is the day where it snowed. We got our spring snow today. And Fred, you were still kind enough to come and brave it. And we appreciate that very much.
It was fun driving up here. Great, great talking with you all.
At least by the time you started, it had gotten wet. And it was really not snowy anymore. So we appreciate that. So.
Thanks.
Thank you. Well, that was a cool car. We went. Yeah, we left the country for a little bit.
Yes.
It's
yes.
Good. And thank you to Sam for finding that for us. He's found a couple of things that we've been fortunate to have here on the show. So thanks, Sam. We'll have to put him on the spot to find something else for us sometime.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. So where have you been lately?
Well, where have I been lately, Dan? Well, it's funny.
For the past month.
I know. I had. Ooh. Hopefully you at home can hear that. That's our Porsche leaving. Does sound pretty good.
It does. Yeah.
Yeah. Well, let's see. Where have I been lately? You know, we talked about this before. You don't always know what's in your backyard. You don't always go see it. You don't always check it out.
I don't know where your backyard is.
Funny you should say that. So, one of our viewers tipped me off to this, and strange because I live out in Sinking Spring area, and I've lived there for about 9 years, and I only just found out this existed, and it's not even 2-mile drive from my house. So now I think of this as West Lawn, but everyone else says West Wyomissing, so whatever. There is a bust. You'll see it on your screen there. And there, Dan can look at it there. I got a photo for Dan. So there is this bust of Franklin Delano Roosevelt on, I've seen it described as like a fireplace hearth. I guess I couldn't see that, but it's decorative.
That's what I was going to say.
Yeah, it doesn't look like it was ever a functional hearth. It just has that look to it. So this is located off a little road called Morewood Avenue, which, so let's say you're taking 422 West, and you get past the Berkshire Mall, and you're driving through West Lawn, and there's a little restaurant there called Victor's Cafe. Well, behind Victor's Cafe are the railroad tracks. This is on the other side of those railroad tracks. And Morewood dead ends right in front of this bust of good old FDR. And the thing is, there's spotty information about it. So it was created by two people, A. Gerlach and J. Kleiner. And we know that really because their names are on it. I don't even know what their first names were. So supposedly they were West Wyomissing natives. George Miser, who you might recognize that name, he's like the Berks County historian. I don't know how else to explain George.
You just said.
Yeah, that's the only way to say it. There's a series of books called The Passing Scene that they used to be put out by the Historical Society of Berks County. I think there's like 26 of them or something. And they're basically books of photos in and around Berks County, and old businesses, old the houses, whatever, you name it, he's got photos of it. So he found those two names being listed as machinists. He found some old directory, and that was their occupation. A former township supervisor, whose name I could not find, that's just what it said, said that this was built during the Great Depression. I don't know. I guess this is as good as mine. But this used to be, or it used to be by an old pedestrian bridge, and you'll see on the next photo there's a photo of a train, and you can see the bridge going over it. This bridge was built by the Reading Company, and there were, of course, a lot of residents who had to get across those train tracks to get to work, and they would have used this bridge. And of course, there's lots of trolley stops. There's a line that goes along Penn Avenue there, which is 422 now, right there through West Lawn. The statue is basically in the railroad's right-of-way. So supposedly the township's not authorized to do anything to it. They can't fix it. They can't move it. They can't maintain it. I should bring this up because I live in this township.
So
Should go to a meeting, Dan.
So it just sits there like a lump.
Basically, it sits there like a lump. But it looks pretty good, I think, for considering no one's really been paying attention to it. Now, I saw an article in the Reading Eagle that was written about Labor Day of 2017. And the Reading Eagle article says that there was a group of volunteers. They went and they cleaned up the area. I think it was actually like the Berks County Democratic Committee or the League of Voters, I don't know, something like that. They went and they cleaned it up a little bit. So the photo that I had in the beginning, if you look at the photo today, the first one I had up there, it's very overgrown. So it looks better today. They really have fixed it up. This Reading Eagle article also says that a group is trying to rescue it. I'm not sure what that means. And the article itself was a little vague. I don't know if that means they're going to keep on just cleaning up the area. I don't know if there's some active preservation thing. I don't know if they're talking about actually moving it to somewhere. Maybe inside would be helpful. But yeah, this is located near me, and it's in a really weird spot.
So why is it there?
It was, I guess, a decoration on this bridge is the best theory we've got. Why they chose to put FDR on the bridge,
And you said they thought it was from the Depression?
that is
George
a
Meisner
rumor
said
from a township supervisor said that this was a rumor.
Because I
in New
noticed
York.
it does say president here.
Which would make sense if it
Because
was.
that's when, was
yeah.
it 32 when he got elected?
Especially, I mean, now it says that this bridge was built by the Reading Company, which makes me think it wasn't like a works progress bridge or something like that.
Right.
I mean, that I would
Kinda
say,
what I
oh,
was
maybe they
thinking,
put, hey, thanks FDR, you gave me a job. Here's a little commemorative statue here. It's such an oddly shaped thing because it looks like a big piece of it is missing. It looks like it should be up against a wall or something because of this fireplace look to it. It just looks a little strange. And it's just in a weird spot. If you want to go see this, like I said, it's on this little, it's called Moorwood, Morwood Avenue. So just take 422, go west. Like I said, once you get past the Berkshire Mall, you get back into West Lawn. Take a left. There's a Redner's, Quick Mart there. Take a left there. Go underneath the railroad, and almost as soon as you get underneath the railroad, you take another left onto Reading Boulevard, and just go a few blocks down, and you'll hit Moorwood. And Moorwood dead ends right there at the tracks, and there it sits, just collecting dust. But it's interesting, and like I said, I've lived here now in that house for 9 years, and this is Literally, Google Map it from my house. It's 1.8 miles away. So as the crow flies, it's even closer. And I just found out about this thing.
And it made roadsideamerica.com, I noticed.
Yes, that's the overgrown photo there where I got that.
Now, did you go to see this?
Yes, I did,
Is this your
actually.
picture here?
No, actually, I misspoke. That black and white photo, I believe, I think that's the bridge behind it, but it's not even like at the foot of the bridge. It's just very strangely placed.
It moved.
It may have. It's weird. It's moved. It's been moved, but now they didn't move it to a smart spot because now
It's
no one
like
can work
those-
on it because the railroad owns it.
It's like those statues on Easter Island.
Yeah.
Who put it there?
Who
Anyway,
did it?
this reminds me, it's a bonus road trip here, okay?
Woo-hoo.
If you go up Route 61, go up through Pottsville and you get to Frackville. And when you get to Frackville, 61 makes a left turn. You can't go, there's a hill in front of you and you can't go straight. But if you look up that hill in front of you and you go up, I don't know, 50 feet or something, there's a statue sitting there. And I found that roadsideamerica.com, and so I was up there once and climbed up, and it's like a little park, and it had something to do with the Boy Scouts. But it's kind of odd. It's a statue of Whistler's mother.
Yes, I've
The
seen that.
painting, you know, the lady in the rocking
Yes.
chair, and it's something to do with Boy Scouts and Mother's Day and something like that. But if you go up there, it gives you this great viewpoint of Route 61.
Why? You just gotta ask.
Well, I
Why?
don't know. I kind of go beyond that why thing and
Yeah.
just say it's kind of one of those quirky, neat things
Oh
to
yeah,
go find.
I
you know?
agree.
So-
It's
And
yeah.
there's only, and that's why we're kind of doing this, this where you've been thing, because now it's not directly dealing with automobiles or whatever, but just people travel in automobiles, and there's a lot of neat stuff out there.
Yeah.
A lot of neat stuff.
Yeah.
So, this is another one.
I often wonder, like, now that I know that's there, and I just look at the houses around there. I'm like, I wonder what the people that live here think. Like,
I think
yeah,
what
it's
you ought
yours
to
in the
do.
backyard,
I think what you ought to do is
knock on doors.
knock on doors and start doing a poll.
What do you think of
Yeah.
FDR sitting on a fireplace? In
Well,
your
maybe
backyard?
maybe they can give some insight on this.
They might.
Maybe they know.
The secrets are locked away in
Mm-hmm.
their memory. It's a very bizarre little thing.
I think you ought to go around, tromp around with your kids. That'd be a fun thing. Now, is this pedestrian bridge still?
No, the bridge is no longer there.
Oh, it's not even there.
Nope.
Oh. So then
It's
I
kind
guess
of it really is just in the middle of nothing.
middle of nothing.
There's just nothing there. Now you can't see it from 422. I did try.
It
to
sounds
see
like
it
you
be-
can't see it from anywhere unless you're standing
right
in front
there
of
in
it.
Moorwood Avenue.
Yeah.
You have to go right there. I tried to look at for it like from 422. There's just too much in between. But yeah. It's
So I have to pop down there sometime
Yes,
and
you
take a
do.
look.
that's right. Take a photo of yourself waving next to it.
Yeah. No, it'd be better for
Posterity's
you to
sake?
do. So your next segment on here. So anyway, hey, I got to tell you. No, I don't have to tell you because Kendra wanted me to tell you about this because a few months ago she talked about Route 522 going through Pennsylvania, and I was actually on it the other day and went to a little town of Dott, D-O-T-T. And
D-O-T-T.
then a suburb of that is Needmore, Needmore, and that's where Kendra's family's from.
A
or
bustling metropolis.
his kinfolk, yeah,
Yes.
her kinfolk. So, you know what? I think this FDR statue is more exciting than both Needmore and Dott put together. So, Sorry.
Needmore is it's a happen. Hey, I went to what did you say you were at Needmore? You passed?
The firehouse.
Firehouse.
That was like really exciting.
Hey, I went to my cousin's Eagle Scout ceremony at a church at Needmore, and we had a luncheon at that firehouse.
Really?
Afterwards.
Okay.
That's right.
I
See?
did
Look
see
at all the
sign.
things that are going on in Needmore.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, 13 years ago.
Okay. So.
Yeah. Did you see the incorrect U.S. highway sign?
No. Maybe that's why they were doing some road construction there. Maybe that was it.
They're fixing it now. See, they watched our show and
Yeah.
they've realized the
No,
error of their ways,
I
and they're
didn't see
fixing
it.
it.
So.
Yeah, well, Needmore is a pretty exciting place. So
sure.
I can see that you're missing some of this stuff just due to the sheer excitement of driving through
Yeah.
Dot. Yeah, I know. Something I didn't mention at the beginning of the show is coming up. We have our 4th annual. I can't believe this is the 4th one already. Food truck fair, and that will be June 30th, and it's from noon to 4, and we have that right here in our parking lot, and it's a really neat thing because you can get in for $5, and that also gets you into the museum, so that's a really good deal. Definitely come check that out. And we have our most popular trucks returning. Sly Fox will be here, Captain Chucky. So if you like your seafood, don't worry, Captain Chucky's coming. And Mr. Softy, he serves out of a 1976 Boyertown bodied truck. And I think it'll be fun. We have a good group there coming. And I have to say, too, that this lovely poster was done for us by Kutztown University students.
Really?
Yes, we did not have to pay. That was a service of their graphic arts department. They do this really cool thing where nonprofits can go and have posters or a logo or whatever designed for them, and we went this year and we went last year too, and they're really neat kids, and they're doing this like as a project, and it's a great service to nonprofits in the area, and they did a great job. It looks
Did
really
they do
cool.
a poster last year
Yes,
too
they
for
did.
it? Okay.
Great kids. And you may notice a smattering of pretzels on there because we are going to do a little pretzel exhibit, you could say, for this year's show. So they built a lot of trucks for pretzel companies here at the Body Works. So we'll have like a little photo display up of those trucks. And I think that's great. What's more like Pennsylvania than pretzels?
Hoagies.
This had to be difficult, don't you?
Sorry.
Whoopie pies. Couldn't find any hoagie trucks
No.
or whoopie pie trucks. So pretzels it is.
No, pretzel trucks are good.
So make sure you come and join us for that event. It's really neat. There's just so much good food out there, and there's stuff too, entertainment. Like we'll have the blacksmiths here. We're gonna have face painting as well, and it's just a neat event. It's a neat thing. So come to that. Come to Diner Day on Saturday, April 7th. And again, if you know someone that worked here at the Body Works, or you did, please contact us. Let us know because we're having that reunion in May, and we want to see lots of former employees here, and they can come check out all the cool Boyertown trucks here.
And Diner Day, Corvette Marcus, he should be here too.
Ooh, so everyone bother Mark for a Corvette update when
Yeah.
you're here on Diner Day.
So-
We should bother him.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, he's been bothering me all night. He's been calling me. You're that Mark?
How many days is it till Hershey?
191. So, but who's counting?
But who's counting? So I think that will wrap it up for us tonight, and we'll be back next month with new information to share
Yeah.
and a new small town to.
And we want to find out more about Franklin D.
Well, I don't know how much more you're going to find out about it because it just. When George Miser, the most he can give you is where those two guys, their occupations, that's where I'm going to say that's probably that's where the buck stops right there.
Yeah. I guess you're right.
But it's a quirky little thing, and go check it out. It's neat. It's a neat little oddity, roadside oddity. So, speaking of oddities, these two will sign out for this month.
I don't know where you were going with that.
We will see you all next month.